All right. Hello, everyone. We'll get started in about one more minute. Just give a little bit extra time for a few people to come back in into the webinar today. If you're having any issues hearing anything, please let us know in the chat. I'll be going over some housekeeping about for the presentation in a few minutes, but just in case you're having any technical issues at the moment, please let us know. Hey, well, we'll get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. It is was it Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. And we're here to discuss the notice of funding availability for the Resilient NJ program. My name is Megan Levy. I'm the lead planner for the Bureau of Climate Resilience Planning and the coordinator for the Resilient NJ program. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. So we have a full agenda for the next hour or so to go over this next iteration of Resilient NJ and the regional planning program and the notice of funding availability opportunity that is currently open. We will be discussing a brief overview of the Resilient NJ program to familiarize anybody who is not who hasn't really participated or doesn't know much about the program itself. We're also going to be looking at the details of applying to the program, the application process, a timeline of important dates, and have a question and answer session. So first, before we jump into the webinar today, I'd like to just cover a few basic housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded, and shortly after this meeting concludes, we'll post the recording and the meeting slides up on our webpage, likely by early next week. To minimize any disruptions, everyone is muted and the cameras are off for all participants during the presentation portion of the meeting. There are also instructions, I think, in Teams if you need to use live captions or if you'd like to use that feature should be available to you. And in addition, if in the meantime, please feel free to write questions in the Q&A at any time you have anything that sparks interest that you might see on the screen. And at the end of the webinar, we'll do our best to respond to the questions in the Q&A. And if time allows, we'll also take some live questions using the raise hand feature. Any which way, you will always have the opportunity to email us as well up until the Q&A deadline for the project on September 12th. But we will definitely try to cover as much as we can today. In addition to that, just so you know, at the bottom of the slide, we also want to let you know that the deadline for the questions is the 12th, but we will make all responses available and sent out to all participants today by the 19th, which is about a week later. One other additional piece of information before we move forward. I just want to clarify that this presentation, we are discussing the notice of funding availability that was released on August 18th, 2025 for municipalities, counties, and community-based organizations and other stakeholders, where they are applying as self-identified regions and will be matched with a pre-qualified consultant team selected by DEP to develop climate resilience action plans and do implementation. This presentation will not cover any details or answer any questions related to the state contract process that future pre-qualified consultant teams are currently applying to. For more information on that process, we ask you to please contact the New Jersey Department of Treasury at NJ START. Those bid solicitations are due on September 12th, 2025. But yes, all of that information should be directed towards the Department of Treasury. So with that, I will now begin our presentation. So Resilient NJ is a regional planning assistance program that began with 4 regions after Hurricane Sandy, those 4 regions are included in blue. They're shown as blue on our map of New Jersey. Our primary initiative is to support local resilience planning. Resilient NJ does that by providing technical assistance to communities to develop resilience action plans, and by also providing online tools like the local Planning for Climate Change Toolkit and the Climate Resilience Funding Directory. For this presentation, we're going to focus on the regional planning program, which pairs multi-municipal regions with pre-qualified consultant teams who work collaboratively to assess the region's vulnerability, understand the community's vision for their future, and ultimately develop a resilience action plan that melds those two aspects together. This process involves extensive and iterative community engagement. The regional planning grant. So there are several good reasons to participate in this program. It helps build on local government's existing work while focusing on collaboration within self-determined regions, making it easier to address issues that extend along shared shorelines, watersheds, infrastructure systems, and economies. It helps identify shared resources, consider shared services, and develop solutions at an appropriate scale to address the risk posed by climate-related hazards such as flooding, wildfire, and extreme heat. It supports communities interested in exploring implementing innovative and transformational resilience solutions that address current and future climate impacts. And it helps you can utilize dedicated funding for regional teams to implement planning actions identified in your action plan and furthering your resilience goals identified throughout the planning process. So an overview of the objectives and goals and benefits of applying to this regional planning grant is to fund the collaborative regional planning efforts to support the development of a regional resilience action plan to increase resilience, build local capacity, and allow local governments to address their needs while enhancing the value and integrity of ecological, economic, recreational, and natural resources in your communities. Regions will develop and implement resilience action plans to reduce risk and increase the region's overall resilience in the short, mid, and long term. The program seeks to have regions and municipalities shape the future of their community character and vision by strengthening the region's understanding of climate change impacts based on the best available data and science, and using innovative and transformational strategies, design standards, and solutions. Action plans may also support successful applications for other state and federal grant opportunities. So here we see that, you will have the ability to steer your comprehensive community-led regional resilience planning actions, and you're going to be increasing your community climate resilience overall. And we hope that it will help strengthen relationships within neighboring communities. So who makes up the regional team? There are three pieces of the regional team plus the consultant team. The prime represents and coordinates the regional team. They must be a neutral entity willing to serve as the fiduciary on behalf of the regional team, who is able to receive and distribute grant funds from DEP. We encourage the entity like a county or regional planning organization to serve as the prime. The prime may not be a member of one of the DEP's pre-qualified contractors or a for-profit organization. The regional team consists of all participating municipalities and counties on the team together. The representatives must be a government staff member and can be from any department or division like administration, planning, code enforcement, public safety, emergency management, or public works, but this is not an exclusive list. Each municipality and county on the regional team is encouraged to include additional staff representatives as allowed by this grant program. If a municipality or county chooses to have its own contracted planning or engineering consultant participate in this effort, that consultant cannot be the main representative for the county or the municipality. The municipality or county will also be responsible for paying the costs associated directly with that consultant's time and the services, and will not be reimbursed using these grant funds. CBO. The community-based organization is a nonprofit organization that has extensive community outreach experience, especially with socially vulnerable populations, an understanding of the local community landscape, and a reasonable working knowledge of climate hazards. We encourage the inclusion of more than one CBO to cover your region geographically, as well as for any specific community engagement needs for special populations. And then there's the consultant team. The consultant team will come from selected from a pool of pre-qualified contractors and retained directly by DEP. This will happen after the regional teams are selected. The consultant team leads the planning process. So I wanted to look at some of the responsibilities of each of these members of the regional team. Like I said, the prime serves as the primary point of contact for the regional team. There must be an entity that has the capacity to submit the grant application for the team. And throughout the project, the prime is responsible for collecting and submitting progress reports and expense documentation prepared by the other regional team members as well as themselves. The regional team as a whole is the client of the consultant team. The regional team is responsible for continued participation, meeting attendance, and reviewing and providing feedback on all materials and documents, and providing guidance and oversight during action implementation to ensure that there is local support and continuous community engagement opportunities. Because ultimately, the action plan that is created from this program is the region's plan. The community-based organizations should be able to actively support all engagement efforts for meetings and other project activities as needed. We also encourage that you have more than one CBO as part of your team. The consultant team will be responsible for developing the action plan and developing community engagement materials and any other necessary documents, but this is all covered through a separate budget. It is the responsibility of the consultant team to execute the implementation activities with input from the regional teams. And then additionally, not on this slide, you will also have DEP support. As the grantor, the Office of Climate Resilience will oversee the planning and implementation process to ensure grant requirements and program objectives are met. And a member of the OCR team will serve as the project manager or liaison for each region and will provide technical assistance as needed. So let's go talk about action plan development. So what's involved? Active public input occurs throughout the action plan development process. These are the first two tasks, which include significant public input to create a foundation for the action plan. So community outreach and engagement is where communities are required through each stage of the planning process to garner public feedback and participate in meetings as required with each component as described on the next few slides. Attendance, promotion, and participation by the regional team at public events is imperative to achieving success. The planning in context and community visioning is an important step to develop innovative and transformational solutions that address climate impacts for current and future conditions across the region, and is used to determine what is important to the region. In addition to cataloging past and current efforts, we also look for gaps in resilience planning to be addressed and analyzed. Asset identification and assessments. Regional hazard assessments determine what climate hazards are present in the region, including but not limited to flooding, sea level rise, extreme temperatures, hurricanes, and drought. Vulnerability assessments will be conducted to determine the exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity of the identified assets to the identified climate hazards. The results of these combined analyses will ultimately inform a risk assessment to determine the probability that a climate event will impact those assets. Methodologies for these assessments will be provided by the DEP to ensure consistency across the regions. Resilience action identification. The climate risks faced by most New Jersey communities are multifaceted and often cannot be addressed through a single action. Identified actions will span the short, mid, and long term and consist of a variety of categories such as physical and nature-based solutions, infrastructure, outreach, and capacity building, and policy and governance changes, which will meet local priorities and address the specific risks of the region. The consultant team will present a suite of potential actions to the regional team, providing details of cost-benefit analysis, collective risk reduction potential hurdles and challenges, estimated costs, and environmental and socioeconomic impacts. Proposed actions will be reviewed and refined and prioritized by the regional teams with input from the community and stakeholder engagement. Plan creation. After actions are selected and prioritized, the consultant team will prepare the action plan for review by the regional team and DEP. The action plan is intended to provide the region, public, and stakeholders with an exhaustive planning document delivering an overview of the process and summary of the key findings on critical issues, community outreach strategies, and outcomes, results of the assessments completed on the assets and at-risk populations, and identification of the region's vision, action item evaluation and selection, and the implementation details. The action plan will identify responsible parties, estimated cost of implementation, funding sources, implementation timelines, and which actions are most appropriate and advantageous to implement. Local government adoption of the action plan is encouraged but not required. Action implementation. So chosen actions can be regional or municipal level, large or small, and it's up to the region team members to select the actions to be implemented over the course of the project. All implemented actions must be included in the action plan. Cost benefit must be taken into consideration, and the completion timeframe for any action cannot extend past the end of this project. So to give you an idea of what an implementable action is, I'm going to tell you that they are planning only activities. They are funded by approximately 30% set aside of the consultant's budget. So the actions are not, implementation does not come out of the budget that will be set aside for the grantees from the regions. Planning only activities. There's one required activity to be done. It is the climate change related hazard vulnerability assessment. It is a requirement from the municipal land use law. So each municipality that is participating in the region will have one of those completed, or if you already have one, we will the consultant will gladly update it for you. Data collection, studies, analysis, grant applications, renderings, and conceptual designs, up to 30 to 60%. The preparing of additional plans, advancing analysis for long-term planning, and climate resilience solutions are all potential planning only activities that can be done through implementation. So some examples on the side of this slide are grant applications, master plan improvements, ordinance updates, wildfire planning, coming up with nature-based solutions, and even looking at potential bio opportunities, maybe plans or maps, things to go along with that. Funding cannot be used for engineering or architectural plans or any activities that break ground and require further review and permitting. The application, the NOFA application. So this will be the application. So who may apply? This opportunity is open to every municipality and county in the state of New Jersey. Applicants must self-organize into multi-municipal regions, and those regional teams must include the following: at least 3 contiguous municipalities, at least 1 community-based organization, and 1 entity at least 3 contiguous municipalities must be listed as the prime, who can accept and distribute the grant funding from DEP, and also must submit the grant application. The prime could also potentially be a regional organization as well. So who can participate and why? And a few thoughts of where putting your team together. This NOFA is open only to regional teams. Consultant teams should not be included in the application. Participating municipalities do not have to be in the same county, but they must be adjacent to each other. When assembling your regional teams, please be mindful when considering the number of municipalities and their population densities. Regional planning efforts are typically larger in scale, and while we want the region area to be inclusive of as many partners as possible, the intent of this effort is not to overwhelm municipal staff beyond capacity. Past experiences in the program recommend a region compromise of 7 to 8 municipalities for the maximum. And then upon award, all participating entities of the region will be required to submit a duplication of benefit affidavit. This means that the towns will have that have already participated and received funds through prior Resilient NJ regional projects are not eligible for funding. However, they may participate in the planning process if they share a border with an applying region. Municipalities that have participated in the Resilient NJ municipal program where they have not received direct grant funding are eligible to participate and receive funds. This map here, just for you all to know, shows the current regions and municipalities that have participated in a Resilient NJ program. The green is our four regional areas, and everyone in blue was participated in the municipal assistance program, and as well as the orange. The orange is a multi-municipal project in Burlington County. So if you have any neighbors who have participated already, or you see something, somewhere along, somewhere close, there's wonderful resources that we have online that you can take a look at some of those plans that have been put together. So this program, I said the grant program funding is exclusively for the regional teams. Up to 6 regional teams will be funded under the grant program. The grants are estimated to be awarded between $200,000 and $300,000 for each region. And this includes up to $150,000 set aside for a community-based organization. The award amounts will be based on the preliminary budget submitted within the application and the amount of available funding. To give you an idea of where the total funding is coming from for this project, there's a total of $10 million available for these projects, both the regional and consultant teams. $5 million is coming from the Building a Climate Ready NJ, New Jersey, NOAA funding, and $5 million is coming from CDBG-DR, disaster recovery funding from HUD. The regional teams and consultant team funding is awarded through separate solicitations. So there will be a separate process conducted by DEP after the region teams are selected that will engage the consultant teams to develop who will partner with each of the selected regional teams to lead their planning process. How are the projects funded, and what expenses qualify? So expenses that qualify include reimbursement for participation, like staff and expenses, in developing the region's action plan and action item implementation. Using the funds for reimbursement for staff time and expenses is optional. Funds may also be repurposed for action implementation with DEP approval, and we can give you examples of how that was done in the past if you're interested. What expenses don't qualify? Municipalities contracted engineers, planners, or similar consultants to participate and or represent the regional team members, including the prime. Any proposal development costs related back to the NOFA proposal, and any implementation activities and actions that break ground. Developing a winning application. All application materials must be submitted as a package by the project prime. There was a checklist of required information that was provided in the application packet on the second or third page after the table of contents, and that can be seen on the right-hand side of the slide. The application, every member of the regional team must fill out an application form that fits their role. The applications are form-based to reduce some of the efforts while applying. So there's a series of questions to be answered by each municipality or county. The prime regional team members and CBOs each have their own set of questions. This is to help us understand your needs. There's a letter of commitment that every member of the regional team must sign that commits to your role. And then we ask for a preliminary budget proposal. There's a template that is also included in the application. Please don't include any in-kind services. And like we said, this is a preliminary budget, so we are able to, there's room for changes and improvements if needed. Any incomplete application shall be deemed ineligible. And our best bet is when you're going through and answering some of our questions, is to describe, demonstrate, and discuss several of these points on the screen, including your need for resources to build climate resilience, impacts from past disasters, the Primes experience, collaboration potential, what makes your region unique, and also the acknowledgement and commitment to an extensive engagement process. So this is what the project timeline looks like right now. As you know, the NOFA was released on August 18th, and here we are on the second step, the Q&A webinar on September 3rd. Your next steps would be to organize your region and develop your grant application, and those grant applications are due on October 14th by noon. From there, the DEP will review the applications and select the regions in November of 2025. And that's when, once the regions are awarded and accepted, final contract documentation will begin. At that point in time, we hope to be kicking off the consultant team selection process. So this will be happening just after the regions are selected. And once the consultant teams are selected and matched with the regions, we are hoping to have the projects kicked off in spring of 2026. These are 2-year projects. So over the next 2 years, from spring 2026 to spring of 2028, you'll be working with your consultants to work through all the previous steps that we discussed and developing your action plan, and also some implementation of some of the action activities. But all activities must be completed by June 30th, 2028, including all of our funding paperwork and payments and invoices. So with that, I'm going to open it up to see what kind of questions we might have in our Q&A and our chat. And once we exhaust that list, I can open up the microphones to anyone who may have a hand. We just ask that you maybe use the raise hand option, so we can try to keep track of everyone who might need to ask a question.
So there's just one question right now, and it's when will the methodology be available for asset data collection?
We don't have an exact date right now, but we are working with one of our consultant firms to do some updating. We will likely have that hopefully completed before this project kicks off, but I can't give you an actual date right now, but I will see what I can come up with. I'm hoping to have something, by the end of the year or very early next year.
Megan, there had actually been a question that was in the chat, but I don't see it now. It says, my question was regarding the prime. It has to be a neutral party. Can you give examples of who would qualify? Does the grant application begin with the prime, or can a local municipality find someone to write and grant and be the prime contact?
Okay, I'm trying to see if I understand it. So the local municipality would like to participate, but they are looking to maybe work with another organization to act as the prime. Maybe they don't, it might be not a role for them. I think this is where the self-identified part comes in. This is where talking to neighboring towns is very helpful. We don't reimburse for application costs, so I don't know if that is part of the concern. Let's see. Trying to think of a good way to, so you're looking for maybe other towns that are surrounding you that may want to participate with you. I think this is where just a little bit of outreach to your neighbors And these can be any boundaries. They can go up a river. They can, it could be a municipal boundary. It could be, it's just like a shared route, a corridor, a road. So that is kind of a tough question, I guess, to get matched up with another town who might be a prime. Yeah, I think at this point in time, it would be having to do a little of, reaching out to your neighbors and seeing if anyone is interested.
Megan, is it appropriate to provide the example of what happened with the Route 130 corridor to give them a suggestion or an idea of what the prime might look like for a multi-municipal project like this?
Sure, we can do, yeah, right. So right now we have the Burlington County municipal, multi-municipal project that we're working on. Each one of the towns is getting a climate change related hazard vulnerability assessment. And also a CCRHA that also encompasses regional actions that they may want to take. They all are contiguously along Route 130 in Burlington County. Their prime is the county planner. So that is something where he's the one that has been sort of acting. They don't have like an official prime. It's a slightly different project than what this is. That's just a little bit of like extra detail. But the person that's coordinating all of these towns together is the county planner. So reaching out to a local county or a local regional planning authority, like a transportation authority like NJTPA or SJTPO, DVRPC. I just use a lot of acronyms, my apologies. Those are also potential opportunities to work with groups.
And then I guess the second follow-up to that question was, does the grant application begin with the prime?
Yes, I would say yes. The prime is the person who is the entity, I should say, that is in charge of. So they're the point of contact. They are the organizer of this whole application. So I guess in a way, yes, it does sort of start with the prime. I don't think that they have to start the conversation, but the prime, there does have to be a prime identified in order to put the application in.
Okay, there are other questions. Whoops,
Okay.
that keep popping up. It's one of them, and I think you may have already addressed this, but we'll be crystal clear about this, is can the prime be a consultant or the municipal engineer? And then how does the funding come through?
Okay, the prime must be a representative of the town, of someone who actually works for the community or the county, a municipality or a county. When it comes to municipally contracted planners and engineers, they do have a role. They can have a role in this process, but they cannot be reimbursed through our grant funds. Our grant funds are only reimbursing basically the time and expenses of the like an administration, a local town planner, maybe public works supervisor, someone with a title along something like that. We do encourage you to bring your consultant along. However, the plans belong to the towns. And we hope that the towns are, take are very, that they have a lot of participation in this process.
Okay, we have another interesting question. If the municipalities don't complete all actions listed in the resilience plan by 2028, does that affect their funding through this grant?
Okay, so you don't have to complete all of your actions in the plan. The plan is going to give you actions that are going to be short and long term. They could be, goals. They might be opportunities to do some outreach, and it might be not a very large budgeted project. You may have a multi-million dollar project that might end up being as one of your actionable activities. So the list of action items is just to give you a road plan moving forward of potential of priorities that you would like to see accomplished. But the general idea is to spend that 30% of the consultant's budget on prioritizing a couple of actions. You know, it could be probably anywhere between, I'd say, 1 to 6 we've seen. It depends on how big the project actually is. We saw some grant applications get done through the implementation process. So there's really a variety of sizable size of actions that can happen. So there's nothing to do with, you know, if you don't finish all of your actions, you're not funded. That's not how this works. This is, you would receive your funding as you're participating and logging your hours and doing your progress reports.
Okay, and then leading up to the next question is, can you give examples of the end product of this grant?
Sure. I'm a little hesitant on trying to share another screen at the moment, but we do on the Resilient NJ website, we have 4 regional project reports, the action plans that have been completed for northeastern New Jersey, Raritan River and Bay communities, Long Beach Island, and for the Atlantic City and surrounding areas. Thank you, Montana, for putting that in the chat. So there are 4 reports up there, and then additionally, below that, there you'll see some of our individual municipal report plans that have been created as well. So, but I would stick with the first 4, so you could see what those plans were developed, how they were developed. They're pretty sizable. There's a lot of good information in each one of them.
Okay, great. We have another question is, the vulnerable communities along the Delaware River in Hunterdon County could collaborate but are not contiguous. Are we disqualified since we are not contiguous?
Oh, I think I need a little bit of understanding on how you're not contiguous along the river, and that's just me picturing in the map.
This question came from Tom. Oh God, I'm sorry if I butchered this. Loughlin, Loughlin.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see if he has something new that's been added to that. I don't see anything new.
Okay. That's kind of a tricky one because we do ask for the towns to be contiguous, but also if you are sharing the boundary of the river, I think maybe we just need to I'm not too sure exactly how
Here we go.
Okay.
It's Alan Hunt provided, I guess, clarification. There are towns separated by rural townships. I think this is what is meant.
Okay. And the rural townships might not want to participate? Is that where I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to understand? I mean, we do ask for them to be contiguous. I suppose we could also, you know, review justifications for what might not make that, why you might not be able to make that that qualification happen. But for right now, yes, we do ask that you're contiguous or you share some sort of boundary.
Okay, Montana just put a note in the chat that we can answer additional questions if they're not answered. And I'm just going in the order that the questions came in.
Sure.
It says, can the funding pay for hard costs? I know the answer, but I don't think the public does. Can the
Okay.
funding pay for hard costs related to promoting public engagement, such as producing and printing flyers, advertising, etc.?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Okay, and then there's a question, can a CBO be a prime?
Um, so the CBO would have to um, be able to work with DEP and be able to take funds, like act as a fiduciary to receive funds from the DEP. We're getting a little bit more into the contract world, so I'm not fully sure on that answer, but I can check. Oh, I see Becky coming off mute. Maybe she might know.
Yeah, so I believe if the CBO is able, to, like Megan said, to take on that responsibility of coordinating across the region and taking entering into a grant agreement with DEP and is willing to take on that responsibility, has the capacity to collaborate, pull in invoices and progress reports and things like that, then I believe the answer would be yes. And they function regionally, right? Like that is one of the
Mhm.
other benefits.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, this next one is really long, so I think we've hit on this before, but I'm going to try to sum this up. Discussing about it's a rural county without professional planners, engineers, and staff, usually municipal appointments. Participation is critical. Um, they're indicating that the township administrator or clerk probably isn't the right person to participate. Can these municipal officials who are contracted be eligible for expensing their time to the project? And I think you've already answered that.
For, yeah, municipal contractors, contracted engineer or planner, the funds do not, uh, are not able to reimburse, someone from outside the municipality or the county.
And I can tell you in one of the municipal projects, we do have the clerk who wears multiple hats because it's a small community, actively participating for the municipality. So
Mhm.
that's definitely something that has happened. Right. We have another question, and has the grant team structure been utilized by NJDEP before, i.e. prime regional team, CBO, consultant team, etc.? It seems an unusual structure. Oh, this is really a long question. Is the consultant team who is defining the tasks and moving the agenda forward with the municipality's regional team and CBO along for the ride? And then there's more.
Okay, okay, we'll do the first part. So the format of the prime, the regional team, and the CBO is the format that we used in the previous round of regional projects. So it has functioned pretty well. We could probably, looking at some of the reports from the previous regions, you could maybe see how it has functioned together. We could also potentially maybe get you in contact with some of those regions, and you can ask them about how they might feel if they're willing to take on those types of questions. But yes, we have used this process before, and it's mostly because we want the towns and the local governments and the community to really work intricately together, to be able to really create a plan that is for your community, so that the vision you see moving forward for your town, in the next 25, 50, 100 years is built by the people that live there, which I think is very important.
Okay. Then there's more to the question that says, all right, if who drives the project? Is it the consultant
Okay.
team who's defining the task and moving the agenda forward with the
Mhm.
municipality's regional team and CBO along for the ride? And then there's
Mhm.
the second part. If not, then why does the prime / regional team why can't the prime regional team CBO pick their own consultants to work with and define the consultant scope?
Okay. So, so the towns are not just along for the ride. We do ask that, we encourage as much participation as possible and as much input as possible that the towns and the local community can give throughout the process. There are the tasks that I laid out earlier in the presentation. Those are the general tasks that come through the regional planning process. But the consultants are here to prepare the documentation for you. They're here to guide and give suggestions and develop different scopes of action and opportunity for the towns to react to, and the county, like the different local governments to react to. You should not be along for the ride. That is not why we do this. The consultants that are chosen that are pre-qualified for these projects and that are matched up with the regions, they're pre-selected through a pretty extensive contract process that we go through, that DEP goes through with Treasury Department. We are looking for very specialized skill sets. These are some of the leading experts in their field, nationally and internationally renowned consultant firms with lots of expertise and experience in resilience planning. So we're just pretty much trying to match you up with some of those wonderful experts. They have large teams to be able to be able to give you as much attention as possible. And that's pretty much why they're already pre-selected. We don't have to go. It's a process where we've already seen the expertise come through with a lot of these contractors. So we do just we're looking for top resilience planning firms for you to work with.
Okay, great. One of the next questions, and I think that this is going to depend on the value of the contract or the award of the contract. It says, sorry, you may have said this, but how much does 30% of the consultant's budget come out to?
So it does depend a little bit on what it ended up being. I would say an average. I'm trying to see if I can remember what our average probably was the last time. I'm gonna do a little math real quick, if you don't mind me. Oops. I would say maybe around $400,000 to $500,000, roughly. Maybe give you an example of maybe 3 to 5 as a potential. Those are very ballpark numbers. But that is the idea. There is funding to do some additional planning. That's why it's part of the reason is a planning only activities, aside from some of the restrictions that comes with some of the funding, restricted uses that come from the funding that we have. But yeah, I would say it's probably in the $300,000 to $500,000 range, roughly.
Okay, great. One of the next questions is, could you kindly review key items that will be considered, such as project need, impact on past disasters, etc.?
Sure. In fact, I'll just pop back to this slide right here. So some of the things that we're looking to learn from you are your need for resources and building your climate resilience. So this is sort of what you're experiencing in your day to day, and what resources might you looking to see that you might need. Maybe you're experiencing impacts from natural hazards that you've never experienced before, or it's just happening more frequently. Again, the impacts from past disasters, and these could be things like major storm events, but they could also just like a hurricane or a nor'easter, but they might actually just be an increase in heavy precipitation, and when those storms are coming a little more faster, and you're having a lot of flooding issues, or perhaps you're dealing with more wildfire risk than you have in the past. Maybe these are hazards that you weren't always having to consider as much as you are now. Other things, regional collaboration. So working with finding those partners across your borders, and finding those partners on the regional scale. Maybe you've a good relationship with your county, or like another regional entity, or a lot of different community-based organizations in your area. The Primes experience, what it comes with that is pretty much the experience of knowing how to work in grant funding. And also being a point of contact, and sort of, there's a little bit of a leadership role in the Primes role as well, of doing some outreach, making sure all of the partners are on board and working together. What makes your region unique? What are you experiencing? Everybody's experiencing something a little bit different, and we just want to know what you are experiencing, because that also helps us match you up with the right consultant if you're chosen for the award. And then just the acknowledgement and commitment to this engagement process. It's a 2-year process. It's a very interesting process, and a lot of good work comes out of it, but it is a bit of a commitment. So we just want to make sure that you also feel like this is something you would like to participate and be a part of for your community.
Great. We have a follow-up question, and I'm kind of, it's a very interesting question. This goes back to where there wasn't necessarily a contiguous arrangement with the municipalities. The follow-up, and I think that you're going to answer this one in a great way, Megan. The follow-up says the rural townships are not vulnerable. It's more of a comment, but I think that you would be able to address that.
I see. So the rural townships as opposed to the towns are okay. I think I understand where that is coming from.
I'm struggling with this myself, because it's perhaps that they are not aware that there are vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I think for all of us, any town, location, person, I think we all do have some level of vulnerability, and we may just either adapt to it differently, or we're affected a little bit differently by a little bit more, a little bit less than our neighbors. So I don't know. I think everyone, my own opinion as the project manager here, I think everyone has this is a great opportunity for any town, no matter how vulnerable they may feel they are or aren't, to participate, because I think it's also a great neighboring community and team building activity to maybe reach across borders, and work with each other and help each other out.
2 questions. This one is very interesting. Can the Prime use its own funds to pay for including the municipal contract consultants in the project?
Use its own funds to pay for, I'm sorry, one more time?
For including the municipal or municipally contracted consultants in the project.
For their own municipally contracted consultants? No, if I'm understanding that correctly, though, that they said the grant funding is only for staff and staff time and expenses, and there's like some of the other preliminary things that we talked about, for like printing and things like that, for local government staff. Anything else that the towns would have to reimburse their own consultants, private consultants separately from this funding.
And I guess
they-
a quick other way to
Mhm.
ask this is if the prime used their own funds, would they be reimbursed by the program?
Mm,
No.
no.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
There's another question. How many hours of time should municipal reps be expected to spend on the project if they were to be funded?
Sure. I would say, I mean, in the beginning of the project, you may have a couple more hours because there's going to be a lot of like sort of gathering and kickoff meetings and steering committee and sort of putting some things together. I will gladly, if any of my team would like to come up mute and
Want
say what
Me
they know,
to
but
answer that, Megan?
that would be great,
Since I
Barbara. Why
was on
don't
the
you?
other side of the table.
Yes. Why don't you? Yeah.
I was part of the Atlantic County Regional Project prior to my joining DEP. I can say there were, at the beginning of it, approximately 2 meetings a month, which were about an hour, hour and a half long. And then there were some public meetings. It's a commitment at the beginning, as Megan said, it's much more intense as the project winds up and down. You do have some public meetings. A lot of them are held virtually. It's a commitment probably about an average of an hour and a half a week. And then occasionally the consultant will need to meet with you to ask some very specific questions or get some very specific data. But it's maybe an hour to an hour, maybe 2 hours a week, average at the intense point of the project. So it's not much, but it does have to be sustained. And that's the great part of the prime and the CBO is they stay on top of the municipal representatives to make sure that you're actively participating in the process. I'm hoping that answers the question. And like I said, this was my personal experience based on the beginning of it when the whole process was new. So we have one more question. It says to confirm the municipally appointed township engineer who is paid via contract and not part-time employee because the township is too small in population to have their own engineer or salary. They cannot have their time covered by the grant. Is that correct?
Can I interject a question before Megan, you respond? So just in response to this question, I'm wondering if the contract to hire that town appointed engineer, is it a contract with a temp agency or it's a contract with a consultant firm? That might help us, clarify our response to that answer.
And the question was from Alan Hunt.
And the rationale between me asking that is, right, like a contract with a temp agency is, then you are really like you're appointing that person, like they are then becoming your employee through a temp agency versus hiring a separate consultant firm. And that's, I think, what we're trying to clarify.
And Becky, you bring up actually a very excellent point because some of the municipalities do participate in that process, and it's a real challenge, and we understand that from the municipal perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't see any other questions. Last call. Anybody else have anything quick?
Okay, so just, I put on the screen here, just some recapping next steps. To send if you think of anything after this webinar and you have more questions, please feel free to send them in to the address listed here. I believe it's also in the application. And like I said, we will post these answers by next Friday, the September, well, 2 Fridays from now, September 19th. You have until September 12th to please get them in. Get your partner teams together, municipalities, counties, regional entities, community-based organizations, and submit your application by October 14th. And we look when we'll be awarding, sending out award notifications by November 21st. We look forward to seeing your applications come in. It's a very exciting process. This is our second round of regional projects, and we're really looking forward to it. And we will make this webinar, the slides, and the recording available to everyone. Thank you.